10,000 military veterans lost their homes shortly after May 2025, marking a housing crisis with deep implications for those who served. This catastrophic surge in foreclosures wasn't just an economic downturn, it was a direct consequence of a policy change, the abrupt termination of the Veterans Affairs Servicing Purchase, or VASP program. Oliver, what exactly was this program, and how did its sudden end lead to such widespread instability for veterans?
The VASP program was a critical safety net. It allowed the Department of Veterans Affairs to purchase and modify delinquent loans, essentially keeping veterans and their families in their homes during financial distress. When the Trump administration terminated the program in May 2025, it removed this crucial mechanism, leaving many households without any alternative for loan modification.
So it wasn't just a reduction in support, it was an outright dismantling of a system designed to prevent foreclosure. The source material emphasizes this decision created a vacuum of support. Was there any transitional planning, or was the program simply cut off?
That's precisely it. The program ended on May 1st, 2025, abruptly. There was no prior consultation or transitional planning, which meant veterans already facing economic hardship suddenly had no path to avoid foreclosure. This rapid escalation of the crisis highlights how vulnerable federal support systems are to sudden administrative changes without proper foresight.
And the numbers after this termination are stark. The source states the VA loan foreclosure rate surged to its highest level in over a decade. We're talking about more than 10,000 veterans losing their homes. Beyond the raw numbers, what were the practical human consequences of this surge in foreclosures?
The consequences were devastating. First, there was significant housing instability. The loss of equity and displacement created a ripple effect in local communities, increasing the burden on social services and rental markets. Then, economic disruption. Removing the VA's ability to modify loans forced these assets into the open market under distressed conditions. This led to lower recovery rates for lenders, but more importantly, devastating financial outcomes for the veteran borrowers.
It sounds like a systemic failure. The market alternatives weren't equipped to handle this type of crisis, especially for veterans who might face unique challenges. The source points out this demonstrates how administrative autonomy of executive branch agencies can have profound real-world impacts.
That's a key takeaway. The crisis starkly illustrated how programs established through administrative policy rather than codified legislation can be dismantled at the whim of an administration. This leaves beneficiaries incredibly vulnerable, especially when it concerns something as fundamental as housing security.
Given this fallout, what has been the response from legislative bodies? Has there been an attempt to restore these protections or create a more robust system?
Absolutely. In response, the House Committee on Veterans Affairs Democrats launched an inquiry to address the crisis. Legislative efforts are now focused on either restoring the VASP program or developing a new, robust replacement. The goal is to ensure veterans aren't subjected to these sudden policy shifts that jeopardize their long-term housing stability.
So the core lesson here seems to be about the fragility of support systems that aren't legally protected. What should policymakers and stakeholders be focusing on now to prevent a recurrence of such a crisis?
The events of 2025 provided some critical lessons. We need policy transparency, meaning future federal programs require clear legislative mandates to prevent abrupt cancellations and allow participants time to transition. Then there's institutional continuity. The reliance on departmental programs necessitates a more stable footing, potentially requiring Congress to codify loan modification protocols into law.
And oversight is crucial here, I imagine.
Indeed. Strategic oversight by committees like the House Committee on Veterans Affairs is vital for holding agencies accountable when policy shifts negatively affect military families. Finally, there's community support. Efforts must intensify to assist displaced veterans in navigating the housing market, as the long-term impacts of the 2025 foreclosure spike are still being felt.
The crisis initiated by the termination of the VASP program truly underscores the critical importance of preserving robust, legally protected support systems for veterans. If you found this conversation insightful, share it with someone who cares about supporting our veterans.